Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. The guy had to learn his lesson. Our OP gave them chances, and they just wouldn't listen. Now it's time for those pesky consequences. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Fine, we'll do it your way. I'm an artist and graphic designer. I've worked on comics, video games, and webtoons and the like, and I'm pretty successful at it as a freelancer. I've recently left my design team and have been flying solo with some decent success. Got a fairly big project from a group making a sort of choose-your-own-adventure interactive comic. I've been hired to design the characters, monsters, and some items based on guidelines from a scenario book. Since it's easy enough and those projects pay well, though they don't go into my main resume, I took it. The cost of the project broke down like this. Each character was determined to be $250 for figure, so front, back, side are each $250, with accessories, outfits, and stuff being an additional $100 to $250 depending on difficulty. There are multipliers and caveats for character difficulties like hair, curls, lace, things that'll take more time. Requests, redraws, and all of that are extra after the initial sketch work's been approved, and anything outside the scope of the guidelines. So if you ask me to design a freckle-faced redhead and I do that and you decide she should be blonde or raven-haired, I'm going to charge you for that. There were 16 characters, 12 monsters, and a whole lot of treasures, trinkets, and accessories to draw, so this was a big money project for me and about 3 weeks of solid 9 to 5 work. I got right on it. Now, the scenario writer, we'll call her Jessica, was cool. Her notes were clear, she was very organized, had a spreadsheet and PDFs with hyperlinks to examples and visuals. Was everything you wanted with doing this kind of work. No mysterious, no guessing. I knew exactly what she wanted. The other guy, the lead writer, Yen, this man was a headache and a half. My contract covered everything I discussed above and some more, royalties and whatnot, but specifically they spoke about changes, fixes, and alterations outside the scope of the guidelines. Something someone apparently did not tell this idiot. The first 8 designs went well. Working with Jessica was easy. She approved everything quickly, though didn't sign off on them. I think it's because she was to present them to someone else for final approvals or something. She only wanted minor changes and commended me for sticking close to her vision from the guidelines she created. Then she got sick and the project director told me Yen was going to be approving the designs from here on out. Yen did not like anything and wanted me to change everything. This character's African American. Why does she have that hair? Why don't you give her an afro or cornrows? Not only a bad idea, but also kind of offensive. Don't we already have a blonde? Why can't this one have purple hair and a thicker body? Why is this one fat? She was not fat. She was like May from Overwatch and personally the scenario writer's favorite design. There were notes about every little aspect of that character, and I knew I got it right. In the end, all the changes he asked for would make the girls look kind of the same, just palette swaps with very little difference, like they were all to his own personal aesthetic, not like a balanced roster like Jessica wanted. He even said they didn't know why we were paying me so much. There were better artists on DeviantArt, which I'll say yes they are, but they wouldn't work with you, jerk. He demanded more changes and more fixes, and a lot of stuff outside the scope of the project, and threatened to terminate my contract using one of the clauses, which would say that I was not working up to the ability and aesthetic displayed when I was hired. Basically, my art wasn't at the same level as my portfolio and gallery. They'd only pay for half the total work no matter what was done, and everyone would cut their losses. He brought this up almost every time I brought up how his changes were against the contract. He'd say he read the contract, but I didn't think he had, because he was also disapproving designs that Jessica had already approved and told me to do just what I was told or he would find someone better. When I complained to the project manager, they deferred to the writer and didn't really want to listen to me about the contract, so if they didn't care, I didn't care. I did all these stupid designs, all of his accessories and changes, everything that he wanted. I was happy, enthusiastic. All those great designs I did for Jessica were replaced, and I got written confirmation that he was rejecting the designs and that he wanted the new ones. I did everything I was asked because I knew how this was going to go down. Eventually, Jessica returned and was livid about the new designs. The other person above her and the writer were also upset as they had liked all the original designs, and according to the contract, I was to be paid a crap ton more for all the changes and edits. But here's where my actions became malicious. In the contract, I specifically write that I can keep any rejected designs. This is a hard point that I write into all my freelance contracts. I don't want you keeping my good designs you didn't pay for or hitting me with a "you made it while working for us" type deal. I keep and own any rejected design. So all those ultra-specific, great designs Jessica wanted were legally mine. Apparently, not only did the rest of the folks working on their team not like the samey and frankly pedestrian look to all the characters I designed, he didn't care at all about the beasts, monsters, and men, but they'd seen most of the ones I sent to Jessica. But I had in writing the rejections for those designs and the acceptance for others. When they wanted them back, I charged them full price for those designs, except for the one with the curvy May girl. I gave that to Jessica. They ended up having to hire me to redesign the girls according to the guideline, as my art would be used in areas of the game, promotion, and apparently the companion book, and they didn't want to use the lame designs or switch out to another artist who could recreate my style. The fallout. They ended paying me almost double what I was to be paid for the entire project, and despite hating to fork over all the cash, ended up paying me a retainer for some more work down the line. Yen was demoted to being a scenario writer for this project and no longer allowed to talk to the artist. I know this because the new lead writer, Jessica, told me. Also apologized for Yen's behavior and stuff. Yen spent the entire time doing all this blaming me and sending me passive-aggressive texts, but I told him if he didn't like it, he could always go hire an artist from DeviantArt. Moral of the story is, if you want to tout following the contract or threaten me with your contract, you best have read that contract more carefully. You might not like my compliance. Yen got his career redesigned on that little power trip. And our second story. Fired my nephew after he lied about another worker. I run a small business, and for over a year and a half, I've been employing Brian. He's a decent worker, comes in every day for 1 or 2 hours to sweep, mop, clean the windows, keep the front tidy, and take out the trash. 2 months ago, my sister asked me if I could offer my nephew, Henry, 19-year-old male, a job because they're going through some financial troubles and need his help. Gave him a full-time job where he basically is like my receptionist, answering the phone, helping me organize papers and such. The reason Henry knows about Brian is because I talked about him to my family once. Brian used to sleep right outside by the entrance every night, or sometimes I'd find him digging in our dumpster around the back, so I decided to offer him some work and he accepted. Since Henry started, he's had some attitude with Brian when he comes in. Twice I came back after meeting clients. Henry was making Brian unload supplies that were dropped off, saying that I told him to have Brian do that. They were arguing because Brian said he couldn't do it. I was already told by him when he first started coming in that he can't do heavy lifting because of back problems he suffers from, so I got mad at my nephew over that. I tried to chalk that up to my nephew not really knowing much since he's new. Last week, Henry told me he saw Brian going to the back office and going through everyone's things. Then supposedly he also went into my office. I didn't believe him because only a few people have keys to my office, my nephew being one of them because sometimes he needs to leave papers on my desk when I'm not there. Brian doesn't have keys for any of that because he only needs to get the cleaning supplies from the closet. Henry said he left his keys out front when Brian was here and he went to answer the phone, and now he can't find them. He kept saying I should fire him. One look at the security cams proved he lied about the whole thing. The fact that he lied about it and also kept suggesting Brian be fired for something Henry knew he didn't do upset me very much. Wasn't thinking at the moment because I was a little overwhelmed with anger and fired him there. You can guess how my family took that, firing my own nephew when according to them, he didn't do anything wrong. He suspected of the man and thought he was going the right thing coming to me. My sister and Henry just misplaced his keys and rightfully assumed Brian stole them and says he never felt comfortable anytime he came to clean. Even though Henry won't give me actual reasons why he was uncomfortable around Brian other than believing he would steal something, Brian's never done anything like that before. Everyone thinks I'm an a-hole for firing and refusing to rehire him over this because of what their family's going through, and it's getting to me. Sounds like your family's okay with nepotism and outraged that you made the right choice. And our last story. Check the property line before I build? Okie dokie. The cast. You, my uncle, and C, neighbor's children. So a few years ago, my uncle wanted to add an extension to the side of his house where his yard went round the side a bit. He asked the neighbor, who's actually a really lovely older man, who said, sure, feel free, and my uncle started to work. Unfortunately, the neighbor got ill, and his demon seed, NC, started coming over. When they saw that my uncle was building close to the neighbor's side yard, they were furious. They immediately asked him to stop, which my uncle did, and the NC insisted he was building on the neighbor's property. Now, my uncle is a really nice guy, so to avoid any issues, he offered to buy the part of the yard he was going to extend to and offered a reasonable $5,000 for it. It wasn't that big of a patch. The demon NC got greedy and refused, so my uncle, being the gentleman, doubled it and offered $10,000 as he thought it was easier than going through the hassle of lawyers and property lines, etc., but the NC still refused. NC, you're crossing my dad's property line and you can't build on it. Either give us more money or stop building. We want to sell this house when he's gone. Yep, they were waiting for the sweet neighbor to die so they could sell his house. Uncle, I think $10K is fair enough. I'm not using that much, and it's close to my part of the property. NC, no, it's not. Check the property lines. You are way past our property line. Offer us more money or stop building. You, are you sure you don't want to take the money? NC scoffs. Not what you're offering. Check the property lines, love. Yep, we're British, sorry. So my uncle complied with their wishes and stopped all building work. It was on their property after all. Or was it? This is where the malicious compliance comes in. He did exactly what the NC asked and got the original plans for both properties, still have no idea how, and checked the property line to see how it was divided. Well, wouldn't you know, he wasn't on their property line. They were on his. With a massive smile, my uncle went to the neighbors the next time the NC was around and kindly showed them the plans of their properties, clearly showing where the properties were divided. Their faces when they realized they'd not only missed out on an easy $10K, they had in fact lost their dad about a quarter of his yard. It was priceless. They had to move the fence, and my uncle got to build his extension stress-free. Moral of the story, if you want to build and the neighbor's kids insist you should check the property lines, do it. You might just save some money and gain some land. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.